Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Good evening, guys. How's it going? We're back again. The gang's back to talk about all the transfer rumours this week. Unfortunately, no actual transfer signings, which I think is annoying a lot of people, but a lot of United fans. But definitely some rumours going around. That is for sure. So we've got some able-bodied people in the panel to help me with that. I've got John. How's it going, John?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You're not melting, mate, today, no?
No, well, I've had 2 shows, though.
I feel for you. Ben, how's it going?
All good. Enjoying the sun.
Brilliant. Marcus?
Yeah, it's going pretty well for me, but obviously the weather from on my side of the world is completely different to yours at the moment. So yeah, I'm still good though.
Oh, good. And Stu, how are you doing, mate? I know you're a barbecue this afternoon, so you've been enjoying the weather.
We've just been invited to another one, apparently, so across the street. So, but I think the wife's popping over with the kids, so that's.
Well, hopefully we'll be brief for you. We'll be brief.
Yes.
But, we're waiting on Mr. Ton as well. So at some stage during the show, we'll have Mr. Ton jump in, as I know is a big passionate AFU member now as well in terms of these transfers. So we'll look forward to seeing Mr. Ton in a short while. But straight into it, guys. So obviously all the ins and all the outs. I want to touch on some of the maybe peripheral ins and outs. Obviously we know all about the Jong one, Anthony one, and we're going to talk about Timber a little bit as well. But I want to talk about initially the Dean Henderson. The Dean Henderson one, obviously, we're all aware that it's been quite widely broadcasted that he's going to be leaving either on a loan spell or being sold, but most likely being loaned out to Nottingham Forest. So yeah, is that a good sort of a good move, guys, for Dean Henderson? Is that a good move for Man United? You know, kind of how do you guys look at this? Does Ben, do you want to pick this one up? I know you picked this on the Spaces, mate. So what's your views on it?
Me personally, I think I can't. I'll reserve judgment until I see what the actual deal is, and then what's said. Because until we see it, we don't know what Erik ten Hag's plan is for Henderson. He might be sending him on loan, thinking, well, he's going to get loads of game time under Forest. Forest play a specific style of football, completely different to how he was at Sheffield United as a keeper, and because of that might bring him on in from a footballing perspective. And obviously, based on his age, because he's only a young kid, really, in football in terms of keepers. So I think if it's a loan and they remove the option to buy, that to me says that Ten Hag wants to assess him playing regularly first team, which he can't obviously give him with De Gea. And then Steve Coppell plays a good brand of football at Forest. And I think it'll be then a case of, right, he's had a full season playing for a club who in the Premier League, so he's playing week in, week out against the best teams. Let's see how he fares come the end of the season, and then make my decision based on that he's had regular minutes in the Premier League with a Premier League team, playing a set style of football. Because he might give Forest, not demands, but specifics that they want him to work on as a keeper that he can't obviously work in and then put out on the pitch when he's playing, because he can't give him that many minutes at the club, and then see from there. Because that's how I look at it. I don't think you can go in with 2 feet until you actually see the actual broad spectrum of the deal, because otherwise you're just guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this being talked about a little bit on TalkSport actually last season when they were on about when he just come back off his loan spell last time, and United offered him silly wages when it didn't seem to fit right, and clearly he was going to play second fiddle to De Gea, which is what has happened this season. I mean, despite the fact that he might get loaned out, John, do you feel like it's still a good move for United? Because I mean, is it unlikely that Nottingham Forest are going to be able to front up the kind of wages that, or even a large percentage of his wages to cover that?
To be honest, it's a deal that confused me a little bit, because I think you talk about him potentially being a number one United. I think Nottingham Forest, obviously, their keeper got well, Samba, obviously, our friend Neil's big fan of his. He's not going to sign a new contract, so clearly they need a new goalkeeper. And they think, from their perspective, Dean Henderson did do well at a club similar to them in Sheffield United. He got them promoted, and then he established them. And it was around mid-table they finished in the first season, so he did a good job there. So from Nottingham Forest perspective, it's a good deal for them. For Dean Henderson, I'm not sure it's quite the right move for him, because he was obviously linked with Newcastle a few weeks ago. I personally think if he was to have any aspirations being United's number one, I personally think that might have been a better place to go. And for some reason, as it did look like he was going to head there, for whatever reason, it doesn't look like it's taking place. So for me, I personally think that Dean Henderson, no disrespect to Nottingham Forest, I do think it would eat a better level and than that. And I do think that maybe Newcastle would have been more suited to him. But, you know, Nottingham Forest clearly getting a good goalkeeper, and I think it could be the difference between whether they stay up in the league or go down if they get Henderson, because I think it does strengthen their case having him as their keeper. Seems like Reese's going to have to use one of Marcus, or do you want to come in?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't sell him or not alone. I think it's a mistake letting him go this time. He should be our number one. Absolutely no two ways about it. No arguments. He's a far more commanding keeper than De Gea. And the problem you've got, if you send him on loan and we end up paying 50, 60, 70% of his wages, and you bring in another keeper, you're still going to pay him 20 or 30 grand a week. So you're not saving any money. And it just doesn't make financial sense, let alone any sense for Dean Henderson, to go out on loan, period. If I was Henderson, I'd be looking to force my way in over the summer to the number one position. It's quite an easy option for him to disappear. So if we start bringing in other keepers as a backup, we're no further down the line in developing a goalkeeper to take over De Gea in 12 months' time or 2 years' time. You've got to think ahead for the club, not just the player. And sometimes a player's just got to get on with it, and if he's got to bide his time, bide your time. He's 25 years old. A goalkeeper doesn't hit his peak till he's 32, 33 of any reality. So for me, Forest is the wrong one. If I was Forest, I'd go for somebody like Nick Pope. He's going to be languishing in the Championship. It's like he want a keeper, try and tempt Pope. He's as good as anyone out there in the Premier League. And he would be a better fit. So for me, it's a stupid idea. It kind of doesn't surprise me with agents moaning players and the club. But no, he should stay. Simple as that, really.
It's interesting. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I just my laptop's deciding to tell me it doesn't like anything above 25-degree heat, so I think that's why I crashed out. Mr. Ton, nice to see you, mate. By the way, it's I think you've had some similar technical issues as I have, so yeah. we're all good. We're all in now. So yeah, thanks for that, Stu. Just interesting on the comment there that's been left. Dino's departure could be linked to rumours around the fact that he was leaking things in the dressing room. I mean, whether we believe that or not, obviously the whole purpose of this chat today is about rumours anyway. So, Marcus, what's your view on that? Do you think that there's any truth in that as well?
I mean, with regards to the dressing room leaks, I no comment because I'm not sure, to be honest, and I don't think it's worth talking about. But with regards to the loan deal, potentially to Nottingham Forest, I think the only winners in this situation are Nottingham, because they're a team that's obviously just come to the Premier League. They obviously can't afford to buy someone like Dean Henderson. So they're basically saying, hey, United, you're not using this guy and you're paying him a ton of money. Can we take 30% of that off of your hands? And, we'll give him game time and we'll satisfy him and we'll keep him quiet for you for a season. And obviously United are the biggest losers. So it goes back to a year ago when it was the whole De Gea versus Henderson debate. Like, I'm personally a huge fan of De Gea, but this is not about who you prefer. It's about what's best for the club. And what's best for the club is picking one keeper and going with that keeper for the future. Obviously, De Gea is not the future. And obviously, even I can admit that De Gea even though he's a fantastic shot stopper, he has so many flaws to him as a keeper, and he's not going to improve that at this age. So for me, you've got to move on from David De Gea. He's been a fantastic servant of the club, and I love him to death. Like, I love him to death. In an ideal world, I would love it if he was able to develop as a keeper, but we don't live in an ideal world. We live in the real world. So for me, De Gea's got to be moved on. And as for Henderson, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he does deserve a chance. He never really got an opportunity to show whether or not he's ready to be the number one after his spell at Sheffield United. He came into the team, and then I believe he got COVID, and De Gea came back in, and then we never saw Henderson again up until the back end of, I believe it was Ollie's second season, or his last it was his second season in charge, because obviously he didn't complete his third season. So we never really got to see what Henderson is capable of, and that's the one argument Henderson fans can probably make that I can't really give an honest rebuttal to. So yeah, I think United have got to make a difficult decision, but they're probably not, and I just think it's a bad deal, really.
Yeah, no, like I say, I'm sceptical whether we'll be able to, Nottingham Forest will be able to even cover, never mind the sign-on fee if there is a sort of option to buy at the end of the season, end of next season, but whether they'll be able to even cover a substantial amount of his wages as well. So you basically, you're just offering a keeper for next to nothing, which is a little bit of a shame. Other than the fact that Henderson's obviously going to get some game time, so for his sake, obviously there's a huge positive there for him, and I suppose for his England chances as well, that's another one. There was some articles I would want to get up tonight, but I think with everything going on with my laptop, that might not be the best part of call. So we'll just carry on as we are. Mr. Tom, what's your kind of views on the Dean Henderson thing? Does it interest you? Is it something that just kind of needs to happen with Nottingham Forest, or what's your kind of thoughts on it, mate?
It's unfortunate we can't squeeze more money out of him, but it's understandable. He hasn't. I think he played 2 or 3 appearances last season. Yeah, so it's going to be hard to get a player like that off the books right now. Loan is the best way. If we can somehow, even if we don't get his full wages off the books, get a big percentage of it. And that's how I look at it. I try to look at it in a positive way, if that makes sense. His wages off the books, which would be a good thing. I would prefer, obviously, it's a tricky one because you prefer to sell him, innit? Really and truly. But it doesn't. It's hard to buy a player that hasn't played for like a year. Any clubs that does that, taking a risk, innit? So just common sense. Realistically, get a loan. He can go out, perform, and then now we're talking about next summer. If he performs well, we can squeeze a nice fee. That's what obviously we wanted to hopefully do with Martial, but it didn't happen, innit? So hopefully, if he does go out alone, perform well, squeeze a bit of fee out of him, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's been a bit of a shame with him, isn't it? Because I think there's been opportunities this season to see more of him. Some European games, even in some of the cup games, I think we could have seen a little bit more of him, and it was a bit of a shame. I think that we didn't see more of him really. Yeah, I think we've all kind of really touched on that. I think the Henderson one will play its part, won't it? And we will see him go in some sort of fashion, whether it be Notts Forest or elsewhere. I think we will see him leave, which I suppose will be again, like I said before, quite good for Dean Henderson. Probably quite sad to see him go from a United fan perspective, because I don't think we saw the kind of real makings of him, to be fair. We'll quickly move on in terms of outs, and it's one I don't want to sort of centre the chat around, but I think it's one that's kind of growing some legs, and it's the Ronaldo one really. Seen some reports growing in over the last sort of 24 hours about the Roma move, and Mr. Ton, I saw a tweet from you, which is quite interesting, that these patterns were happening at the beginning of last season with Juventus, where it seemed like Ronaldo was quite happy about what he was, where he was and what he was doing, but then all of a sudden things grew legs with United, and he made his move. So
technical difficulties.
Yeah, kind of want to put that out to the guys.
I got a drift of what you said. I think we all got a drift of what you said. Basically, yeah. it's a situation with Ronaldo. Ronaldo, you don't decide when Ronaldo leaves. Ronaldo decides when he leaves, and that's it. If he gets an opportunity that he can be back in the Champions League, someone can pay decent wages, Ronaldo will leave. People, I get he was at United, but he doesn't really have sentiment to Man United. I don't like when fans do this. That's why he left the club in the first place. I think people forget that Real Madrid was his dream and always was his dream. There's no sentiment there, man. I don't believe in that with Ronaldo. I'll be honest to you. He goes where he wants to go. He dictates his future. He dictates where he wants to play. And he done this. There was a big paragraph on his Instagram about this last season with Juventus, about him staying, and then last minute, look what happened. So if Ronaldo wants to stay, he will stay. But if he wants to leave, he will decide to leave, not the club. Put it that way.
Yeah, Marcus, what's your thoughts on it, mate? Are you, I mean, first of all, you know, did you believe in the rumours? And equally, do you, having the fact that it's Ronaldo, is it something that we should really be sort of that concerned about, considering the way in which we kind of want to move next season with the team and create a new feeling around the group? Is losing Ronaldo to Roma a massive issue for United next season? If it is true.
I think initially I was a bit afraid, especially when we didn't qualify for the Champions League. But the more and more I think about it, like I just don't see where he would go. You know, I don't see. Obviously, there's lots of clubs who would be interested in signing Ronaldo if he made it public that he wants to leave, but he hasn't done that yet. So he's not really available, right? And so a club that's going to come in and take Ronaldo right now, it would have to be one of the big clubs. I don't think he would downgrade and go somewhere else. I don't think he will go back to Sporting, at least not yet. I think he's still wants to play at the highest level, if not just below that, as long as possible. That's the type of player Ronaldo is. He's got that elite mentality. He wants to stay as long as possible. And so I think he's a very driven individual, and part of that will lead him to staying at United and avoid going somewhere else. And I personally haven't seen any reports of him linked to any of the top clubs in Europe, or any club that I think would make a lot of sense. So I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But I do agree with Mr. Ton. I think Ronaldo would leave if he wanted to leave. You know, I don't think he does, but I think I don't believe in the whole sentiment thing, personally. Like I do believe he genuinely loves Manchester United as a club, but if it came down to, do I want to play in the Champions League for someone else, or do I want to keep playing in the Europa League with these lot who are not serious, I think he would go play in the Champions League. You know, I'm just being honest. I think he would play in the Champions League, but I don't even think we have to worry about that, because I don't think Ronaldo's thinking about that. I think Ronaldo's just thinking about what can I make of this situation? How can I improve and be the best version of myself in 10x system, etc., etc.
I think he's probably genuinely coming to that stage in his career, in his life as well, that he's honestly realising that he's getting on a little bit as well. And I think this season was probably a huge wake-up call to that. Not to say that Ronaldo played poorly, but there were games where he took a little bit of time out and he came back and he was a lot better. But if he's got to do that every time he has a bad game, it's going to be. I think he stood up and took notice there that the pace of the league, the pace of the Premier League, is obviously quite a serious pace, and he can't keep up with it anymore. So it's probably the first season where he's had a strong think about what he wants to do. And like I say, he's not on borrowed time, but equally, what's he got left now? 2 or 3 years at the very, very top. So, and that's incredible saying that at the age that he's already at. So. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Stu, what's your view on it, mate?
Sorry, go on.
No, go on,
I just think it's.
No, I was saying, Reece, if you believe though the reports, sorry, Stu, he wasn't entirely happy not being played. I'm just saying, innit? Ronaldo's got a mentality where he wants to play every game. If you believe the reports, he wasn't happy.
It's lazy journalism as far as I'm concerned. If you actually read the article, he's talking about that he doesn't fit into Ten Hag's plans and all this nonsense.
No, I wasn't talking about this article. I was talking about the briefings that come out.
Talking about this particular article, where it's come from. It's just lazy journalism. I'm in sports journalism. I work as a sports journalist, and you see it a lot in all aspects of sport. There's nothing to really write home about in terms of what Manchester United are doing in the transfer window. We've got nothing to really talk about apart from dragging De Jong through the system again, and Timber and Dumfries, etc., etc. So you've got to make some kind of sensationalist story up. And that's what happens with journalists. It's lazy journalism. Now, there could be some truth in it. But then you've got conflicting stories between what Ten Hag has talked about, his excitement working Ronaldo, and then Ronaldo looking forward to working with Ten Hag. And then all of a sudden you've got the flip-flop of, well, Ten Hag doesn't really, he's not showing him any love and all this kind of nonsense. You have to bear in mind, they don't report to pre-season training until June 29th. So let's see what happens. But to me, it's just lazy journalism. Seen it before.
You're muted, Reece.
I'm having a mare tonight, aren't I? I'm having an absolute mare.
Barry on the women's channel was even worse.
Yeah, I'm having a mare. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so I do think it's a little bit of lazy journalism. I really, really do, and I think Callum made a really good part on one of the spaces. I think the spaces that ended the other night about everything connecting Man United together. Every sort of article that goes out, if they put Man United in that group, and Ronaldo's the same, isn't it? You put Ronaldo's name in a news report or an article, and it sells, and it gets clicks and it gets likes, and that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? So we've got to become accustomed to that. Really, I think regardless of whether Ronaldo stays or goes, it's going to be a benefit either way. I think with Ronaldo stays, we'll find a way to get Ronaldo in the team. If Ronaldo goes, and Ten Hag will find another way of coping without him. So that's what good managers do. That's what Fergie would have done. I'm sure Eric Ten Hag's got a lot to prove in that regard, but I'm sure we've all got faith in him to sort of cope and adapt to situations. Plus, as a lot of the guys have said in the spaces, Mr. Ton, you included, and Ben and Jong, patience is key. We've got to be patient. I know there's a lot of activity happening at the minute, but again, we've just still got to be kind of patient, haven't we, with this, and be quite realistic as well. So, Ben, I'll come over to you so I can stop talking and make a mockery of myself again. So, what's your views on the Ronaldo?
I think with the Ronaldo thing, I think what they do is the media in general is they'll take say if there's a paragraph of what Ronaldo has said, they will take a snippet of what he said, which will be the truth, and then they will rewrite that sentence in a way that fits the narrative that they want to then drive. So he might well have said, I'm not happy with how I performed last season and how the team did. And then what they'll do is, out of context, they'll take everything else that he would have said that made sense with what he was saying in that sentence, and then go, look, see, Ronaldo doesn't want to be here because he's not happy with how the team are playing and he's not happy with where the team's going. And for me, I'm not fussed either way, because if he goes, okay, you lose what he did last season from an output, but then you give Eric Ten Hag that shadow removed from Ronaldo to then go and do whatever he wants to do with somebody else in that position as a focal point, or however he then wants to play the system without having to worry about fitting in somebody of his stature. If he stays, he'll just do what he did last season from a goals perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I say, I think we'll sort of cope either way, won't we? And I think Ronaldo will do what Ronaldo wants to do. As Mr.
But the one thing I will say with Ronaldo, though, is I don't think he would do what he did with Juventus with us, as in a lastminute.com thing. I think because he has that much, even though he's out for himself fundamentally, I think because of the respect he has for the club as a whole, I think he would be more willing to sort of make that known earlier so that the manager's got time to do whatever he wanted to do in place of that. I don't think he'd just be like, right, the season starts tomorrow, see you later, son, I'm going.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think.
Can I interject there quickly?
Yeah,
just a little bit of news that just come out. Apparently, well, not apparently, from Fabrizio, the kid that we were linked to from Porto. Apparently, it's official now. He's going to PSG.
The Vitina.
Yeah, it's official now. I don't know if that's a bit of breaking news, even though we was rumored to, be linked to him. So.
I mean, rubbish that though.
Didn't Jonathan Schrager say that we had talks with him about a few hours ago? I know Fabrizio said we weren't actually in talks with him and we weren't seriously interested, but there's conflicting reports.
Yeah, it's irrelevant now because literally he said they're set to sign him. Here we go. Official proposal worth 40 million euros has been accepted after personal terms agreed today. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a shame. I know most people didn't want him, but
one less player we're linked to.
Yeah.
Well, luckily enough, that wasn't one of the guys I had on the list, but we've covered that one out.
That was a quick overview there by Mr. T on that one.
I know he was on the list.
John, come to you on the Ronaldo, just to finish up on the Ronaldo one, mate. Do you have views on that?
I agree with a lot. Well, everyone said I don't believe it to be true, particularly the Real Madrid things. I think you would consider it like a big club if it was Champions League. I suppose we know Real Madrid in the Europa League with us, so you won't go there. I do think, I think most likely will stay here. I mean, we touched on he's driven to win, and I think he will feel a sense of disappointment about last season, but if anything, I think it might make more likely to stay there. He might be driven to ensure that we do a good job this season, and as we saw towards the end of the season, even though we didn't get top or anything, his goals can be crucial, and I think he will be driven to try and get us to be competing as much as possible next season, and I do. Well, it's difficult to say. I do personally think he feels that he hasn't finished boosting at United.
Yeah. I think it's like I said before, sort of touching on old ground. But I think either way, I think if he goes, we adapt, and if he stays, we use him in the right sort of way. And I think Erik ten Hag will do that. And if it doesn't kind of fit in Erik ten Hag's plans, I don't think he's going to be held to ransom as if. Similar to I think Rangnick was at times this season just gone. So let's move on then. We'll move to the kind of Aaron Wan-Bissaka one, and in tandem with that, the Denzel Dumfries one from Inter. So I think Chelsea are in for him as well. What's your guys' feeling? Would losing Wan-Bissaka for a Dumfries be a wise option, or do we keep all the Wan-Bissaka at all costs? Even if we do look at bringing this guy in as well, or what do you guys reckon? Is it an improvement on Wan-Bissaka? John, I'll come to you first on this on Dumfries.
Yeah.
Have you had much view on him?
I mean, I've mainly seen him when he was playing in the Euros with Holland last year, and he's a very good attacking right back. I feel he had a very good tournament. I felt a year ago, but as we know, a lot of players perform at international level but aren't necessarily great at club level. I think it's interesting that I think maybe 20-25 million will be done deal on that. I think United's problem is that, if the likes of Chelsea are in for him, they're very quick, and if they are interested, he'll probably go there. So, and I do think we need a right back. I do think Dumfries might suit Ten Hag's style in terms of the attacking sense, because he will obviously produce a lot more going forwards than what Wan-Bissaka will. I didn't particularly notice. I'm not sure he's the best defensively, but for whatever reason, Wan-Bissaka, for the first 2 seasons, he had 2 good seasons personally. He's obviously very good tackling wise and that kind of thing, but we know his product isn't the best. So I think it also depends on if we get a right winger as well, personally. I think if you could have a link up there, that would be important. But yeah, it looks like Wan-Bissaka's, and now he's going back to Palace. Again, it's another one where you're like, if he's not going to be any use, can't you sell him, or is the money too high where we have to loan him out? Whatever it is, it's not going to look. But yeah, it looks like he might be heading out, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I think there's a comment there. I think Jarvis just put a comment in about Inter already selling players as well, so it's unlikely they're going to be selling more, which could be a valid point. Ben, what's your views on Dumfries, and if we get Dumfries in, do we look to sell Wan-Bissaka?
Well, the thing is with Dumfries, is all the games that I've seen him play for Inter, they play 3-5-2, which I have not seen Erik ten Hag really do a 3-5-2 system when he's with Ajax. So, and he's been linked with Anthony as well. So Anthony's the better attacking player than Dumfries, and Timber's the better defender out of the two of them. So it don't really make sense to me going for him, unless he's cheaper than obviously buying Anthony and he sees him more as a viable option for funds. But for me, I'd rather get Timber and Anthony because they make more that links better than buying Dumfries when he plays in Ten Hag doesn't play in a 3, he plays in a 4 at the back. Wan-Bissaka, I actually feel sorry for Wan-Bissaka because when he was at Palace, he was exceptional, and we bought him and then used him never how he was actually playing at Palace, and then never allowed him to move his game on with how he was coached, because you can see he's not been coached very well from an attacking perspective. So we signed a player who was an exceptional one-on-one defender, and then never allowed him in a system to enhance that aspect, but then work on the attacking aspect. So we kind of let him a lamb to slaughter, really. So I actually feel for him a bit. But I think he'll probably, like John said, with how much we're probably paying him, I can't see us recouping anywhere near what we would want to get for him that we paid Palace. So it'll either be he'll go to Palace on loan, or we'll send him there for a silly fee, really. But yeah, I actually feel sorry for Wan-Bissaka to a degree.
Yeah, we've probably talked about at the end of the last season. I mean, there's many examples of players that just haven't worked out, and it's a shame, really. Wan-Bissaka in the midst of a poor run of form and a poor season. There's many more examples of that, not just him. Stu, what's your views on it? I mean, there's some comments. Jarvis again has said that it's an example of sort of lazy journalism on the Dumfries one. Do you agree with that?
To an extent, I can see why we're linked with him, because I don't think we'll get Timber. I think Timber will stay at Ajax. I think he'll be more concerned about his World Cup place than risk moving. So I can see the link between Manchester United and Dumfries. I personally wouldn't sell Wan-Bissaka anyway. He's by far our best fullback as a fullback. Forget about going forward. A fullback's job is to defend, and he's as good as anybody in the league defending. When you look at Trent Alexander-Arnold, brilliant at going forward, but can't fucking defend. He's got no positional sense whatsoever. The issues that we've had across the back has been the issues that we've had across the back. I'm talking across the whole back four. And it stems from De Gea's lack of coming out and being, combative within the 18-yard box. And I talk about it all the time about yardage in between the centre halves, the fullbacks to De Gea. That's been proven time and time again. The fullbacks have been hung out to dry because the wider players aren't coming back to help. They don't come back and assist. So to be an effective fullback, you need to have an effective wide player to support you and help you. Now, whether or not people like the old 4-4-2 system, ultimately, when you're playing a 4-3-3, when you're defending, you defend in a 4-4-2 system or 4-5-1 system. And the idea is that the wider players are supposed to come and help the fullbacks. It's just basics. It's not even rocket science. It's just basics in football that you were taught when you were 5 years old. And so that's been Wan-Bissaka's issue. Luke Shaw's had the similar problems when he was playing Telles and Dalot. People quite like Dalot, say he's a better defender than Wan-Bissaka. He isn't. His positional sense is awful. But the problem you've got is they don't communicate with the wider players. And they don't communicate with the midfielders. And what tends to happen with Wan-Bissaka in particular is the midfielders won't come and take the ball off him when he's out wide. When he's up top and he's going one-on-one, yeah, he isn't the greatest in the world. That's something for him to work on. That's something for him after training to go to the footballer when he goes home, ping it up and down the wing and get his crosses in. That's for him to work on. You can't rely on coaches. I keep talking about this all the time. You cannot rely on coaches to make you a better player. You're the only one that can make you a better footballer. And if you can't be bothered, you won't progress. If you can be bothered, you will progress. It really is as simple as that. It's down to you as the individual to do it. So it's another kind of, but as I say, I'll see the link with Dumfries. You've got a squad depth issue as well. There's no point removing Wan-Bissaka out the squad if you bring in a Dumfries or you bring in a Timber, whatever, or you bring in anybody to play right back and he gets injured. You know, they're then relying on Dallo again. So, you know, you've got to have squad depth. You've got to make sure whatever you do, and Ten Hag's got to make sure, and I'm sure he will be, whatever he does, he's got 2 players for each position of reasonable quality. So I'll come back to it again. One-on-one defending, nobody better. If he gets Anthony, if Anthony comes in and Anthony supports him, brilliant. If we don't, and we're relying on Sancho or Rashford or Elanga, he's going to struggle again. It's as simple as that. So,
Stu, what about if he's not the manager's cup of tea? And people like Ben, because they've been on space with me, Reese, I don't know if he's heard me say it, and I always try to advise all the fans, try to take your personal preference out of it. Think of what the manager would want. That's like me. I have certain preferences at the moment, but I know the manager's not going to go for some of my preferences. Does that make sense? I get what you're saying, but if
we don't know what Ten Hag wants. That's the thing you're saying.
No. I get what you're saying. I do, but if you base it off the period of time that he's had and what he's trying to do, from just hypothetical speaking, he does normally like, you know, multifunctional fullbacks, if that makes sense, not just to be one-dimensional.
Yeah, but
I always try to take our preference. I always try to take our preference, my preference, anyone's preference. When I talk to any fan, I always try to take their preferences out of it, if that makes sense. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with you, but I always just try to take everyone's preference out of it.
Yeah, I get that. But Dallo's, Wan-Bissaka's got to work on his game. He's the one that can improve himself. And if Ten Hag's spoken to him already, I don't know if he has, but if he has, and he said, look, this is what I need from a fullback. I'm not saying what I need from you. This is what I need from a fullback. You're doing this. I need this. So it's up to you to go away and bring me this. And if you don't bring me this, absolutely move on. I totally agree, and that's right. But if I was Wan-Bissaka, I'll be looking at it. I'll be studying, you know, how Ten Hag plays, as you quite rightly point out, with the progressive fullbacks. And what can I do to improve that game? If he wants to stay at Man United, of course, we don't know if he wants to stay. But, you know, it's just the way that I see it. You know, I wouldn't personally move him on.
Yeah, Marcus, have you got a view on that, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say that, I mean, first and foremost, there's many other issues in the team for me. Well, one issue in particular that I can think of that's far more important than the right back situation. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of Wan-Bissaka, I do think that going for Dumfries and then getting rid of Wan-Bissaka would be wasted time in this transfer window if we only get Frankie de Jong and we don't address the CDM problem. So that's kind of my view on the deal itself. And then on Wan-Bissaka as a player, again, the things that Wan-Bissaka has to improve in order to fit into Ten Hag's system, which is primarily a possession-based system. So as a defender, it's not just about being good defensively, but you're going to have to be good on the ball and going forward. If he wants to fit into that system, he has to learn the skills required for that. Now, obviously, personal development is up to you as an individual, but I feel like an issue we've had at United in terms of coaching is we haven't had a very specific style of play. So from one manager to the next manager, you're jumping between completely different skill sets required to bring their philosophy to life. And that's an issue as a player, because imagine you play for Mourinho for 3 years. For 3 years, you are busting your ass off. You are trying your best to become this perfect model for him and to bring his system to life for your own personal benefit so that you can start games, so that you can show your national team coach that, look at me, I'm evolving, I'm becoming better. And then Oli is the next manager. And then Ten Hag after him. And it's like, it's all these different play styles. Manchester United, in terms of coaching and in terms of style of play, they need to get that right first before we can start saying, okay, 100% this player does not belong in the system.
But Marcus, would you say though there wasn't really a big difference in style from Jose to Oli, if that makes sense?
In terms of aesthetically, no, there wasn't a difference. Like, we as fans didn't notice it.
And then Oli did get a lot of players in that didn't play under Jose as well.
He did. But the point I'm trying to make is...
No, I get what you're saying. It's just when people make this point and they say, "Oh, but Van Gaal," and then, but Jose, when he came in, he got a lot. He got rid of a lot of. Yeah, he got rid of a lot of Van Gaal's players. So when people say that, but I always like, but a lot of these players are gone.
No, okay. So think about it this way.
No, I'm not saying it's only.
I know. I get what you're saying, but to people who would say that, think about it this way. Let's forget about the players who are gone. Let's talk about the players who are here. Imagine the players who are here who spent time playing under Oli and tried to fit into Ollie's tactics and Ollie's ideology. And now we've hired Ten Hag and they've got to go in a completely different direction. That's not really fair to them. And you could say, well, yeah, they're millionaires, so it shouldn't really be fair. They need to work hard. But like, if you want to speed up that development and make it better for them, then you hire managers who at least play a similar play style. That's all I'm saying. So in terms of players like Wan-Bissaka, again, we're going to have this problem in the future. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up. Like, people might say, yeah, so Wan-Bissaka, because, going forward, he ain't that good. Yeah, but the same thing's going to happen again. We're going to sign a player who is good going forward, and then the next manager's going to want a defensive fullback, and it's like, bro, we're back to square one. So United need to pick a thing and be like...
But that's how we do things right this time, and I try to stress this a lot, is that the difference is, with me personally, hiring a Pochettino and a Ten Hag, it's easy to be continuous with the manager. As in, you can go get a Luis Enrique or another manager that plays. You know what I'm trying to say? A similar.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
The way Barcelona do it.
Yeah.
If you get Pochettino,
then
you might. Do you know what I'm trying to say? After that, it's a bit. I'm trying to say. I feel like
I completely understand you.
Guy, if everything is right, what you're saying shouldn't be an issue. Hopefully.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we hope Manchester United are doing the right thing. But long story short, I think Wan-Bissaka's got a lot of work to do if he wants to play under Ten Hag. And I personally wouldn't sell him, not because I'm a huge fan of him, but just because I feel like we have other issues in the team to address. Like signing a right back, respectfully, I don't think it will go down well with the fan base. If we sign a right back and then we only sign Jong in the midfield and then maybe we get a Timber and someone else, I don't think that's going to do us much justice next season. I think we need to address the midfield first. And as Stu pointed out, a big issue with our defending is that other players don't track back as well. So either way, even if we sign a Dumfries or whoever the replacement is for Wan-Bissaka, it's not going to improve if we don't address the other issues, That's my take on it.
No, well, like I say, it's a difficult one, I think, without those positions. We have so many positions, aren't we? The trouble is whether it all fits in. We don't even know really kind of what Ten Hag style is going to look like as well. There's so many questions unanswered at this stage. So again, it's difficult. I know you guys have said it before, Mr. Ton. You've mentioned it as well on Spaces about the signings that we were sort of linked to, how initially, like how much we were pushed to those signings, and then all of a sudden Erik Ten Hag's come in and the scope has changed. Those players have changed, those names have changed, and the people around now have changed. The links have changed with that as well, because obviously Ten Hag's coming in with a different view on the world and his own signings, which we've got to take in faith, haven't we? That he's going to get the right sort of people in. So it's an interesting one. The next one I want to kind of move on to, because it's 45 minutes has gone so quick tonight. So again, I appreciate it. And guys in the comments, just jump in with your questions, please, for the panel, because I'm sure that they'll all be keen to answer your questions on any of the potential signings that we're linked to, or any questions on current players or anybody leaving as well. So please ask your questions in the chat. The next one I want to move on to was Timber, actually. So we'll kind of move on to that. Is Timber up there with just as important as a De Jong? I personally think so. I think that's something that we desperately need. When you look at Liverpool and how desperate they are with, you talk about Salah and you talk about Mane and the other players in the team, they miss Van Dijk. When Van Dijk's not in that team, they miss Van Dijk. And is Timber potentially somebody who could come into United's team and be that, that kind of that important for us, have that athleticism that he carries. Mr. Ton, I'll come straight to you and then we'll work his way back around the panel. But guys, if you want to jump in as well, feel free. But yeah, Mr. Ton, what's your views on Timber, and is it likely to happen this summer?
I feel like right now, to be fair, I know a lot of the fan base was getting worried because of the report the other day. that's coming out from Holland. But if you take it back to the Athletic, they did report this. They did say that Timber, and this was even before the Nation League, that how he's going to go on his holidays and then think about it. That's what they reported ages ago. Do you know what I mean? And maybe sometimes a lot of people don't read the Athletic or check it, but they did state that. I don't think that deal is off completely, because where the report started was from the guy in Holland. And when he originally reported it, it wasn't of no evidence. It was actually his opinion. In his opinion, he said Ten Hag would go for, and that's why, I don't know if people follow him, European Lad had to delete the tweet because he realized that was his opinion. So where the whole reports and links started, the guy now saying it's more likely he will stay. But then there was it today, the report that how he just wants to be convinced of game time, innit, because of the World Cup. So
I saw something on that, just to add to your point there, mate, as well. I saw, and I think Stu sort of mentioned it briefly there, that Louis van Gaal's been in his ear about potentially missing out on a World Cup spot if he was to switch to United, which I think is pretty cruel, to be honest. I know Van Gaal's got this kind of bit.
I think it's about playing Sam, though, isn't it? Well, on the flip side, if he did sign for United, I'm pretty sure Sam would play. So
that wouldn't necessarily be an issue. Sorry, Mr. Son, do you want to carry on? Sorry,
No, but from what I know, Man United, their focus is on midfield, then attack. Centre-back is not a big priority, as much people think at the moment. Reason being, they've got too many centre-backs still on the books. So that's why, if you check the reports and people that I spoke to and listened to, they've said the exact same thing. Centre-back is unfortunately not a main priority at the moment, because, which makes sense. You know how if people know how the Glazers works, it's about numbers, isn't it? So you need to, when you look at the books, we actually have a lot of centre-backs right now. So then to bring one in doesn't make sense if you go on based on the books. So I think we'll see someone leave before a centre-back come in. I might be wrong, but let's see what happens. As in, for Timber's ability, he's got so much potential, man. The kid is, bro, the sky's the limit with that kid. I'll be honest with you. And I don't really get why people say he can play as a right back. He's played, like, especially that last season, I think 4 games as a right back, and that was just a cover. And 9 times out of 10, people base it off physicality, but the guy is a beast, trust me. If you actually watched him for the season, he's a beast. He's actually a beast, and he can, no issue playing at centre-back. No one questioned Carlos Puyol at his height playing at centre-back. No one person questioned it. So, and he even stated it himself. When he went to the Nations League and he had it sat down in an interview, he said it, I'm a centre-back. So that's, if the guy is saying literally he's a centre-back, that's what he wants to play. So let's wait and see what I've said this before. I think the guy that I don't want to speak about yet until we get to him, I think he's the first domino, and then you will see more follow after that. That's what I think was most likely to happen. Because I feel like that domino would also, once that domino falls, the right domino, other players might look like and think, oh, that looks a bit interesting now, if that makes sense. So it's a wait and see game for me, man.
Yeah. Marcus, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think it's interesting with Timber, the fact that he, obviously there's all of these reports coming out, especially today, about him wanting first team football. I personally don't think we'll get him because of that, because I think, number one, just based on Glazeronomics, the Glazers are not going to promise him, or whoever's in charge is not going to promise him first team football, because they know they paid 80 million for Maguire and Varane ain't sitting on the bench. So that ain't happening. But even alternatively, is it wise to get a 21-year-old player who's never played in the Premier League and promise them regular game time over Varane and over, even though some people don't rate him, Maguire, who is the captain of the club, right? Like, it's not really the most wise thing to do, especially considering, like, again, I know people overemphasize the point about physicality, but it's pretty important in the Premier League, especially in that defensive region. The thing is, if you're not physically imposing, then your partner at centre-back needs to be, right? And so that's the thing you need to think about with someone like Timber. Like, if you're going to buy him, you're going to need somebody who's going to pair next to him, who's going to have all the qualities that he doesn't, basically, so that they complement each other as a pairing. You know, that's the whole point of having a centre-back pairing. So I just don't see it happening. And I think with Timber, like, realistically, if he was more open to coming to Manchester United and he wasn't so concerned about his spot in the World Cup and he wasn't afraid of the competition, and he had a little bit more of that ego and that arrogance to say, you know what, I'm going to go to Manchester United and I'm going to be a starting centre-back and I'm going to prove myself. If he was that type of player, I don't think we would have had issues. Also, the devil, Louis van Gaal, he hates us. So he's probably been in his ear as well. You know, Van Gaal absolutely hates us. And that's probably a huge reason why he's decided to stay. Because, I mean, as much as we as fans love to, you know, kind of brush these stories off as paper talk and rumors and stuff, but people talk. Players talk when they're on international duty. People talk, you know, and they will be saying things about Manchester United Football Club. They'll be saying like, "Dude, why are you going there? You know, don't go to that club. You know, stay at Ajax. You know, do this, do that." So people will be in his ear, and he will be impacted by that. He's a very young lad. He's playing in Ajax. He's comfortable. He just won. I believe they just won the league title basically on the last day. Like, he's not going to want to risk going to a club that, with all due respect, is in the Europa League and isn't doing very well for itself, even though it's a Premier League move and it's this glamorous club like Manchester United. He will be aware and conscious of all of these different factors, and he'll think to himself, you know what, maybe I'm not ready. Plus, I want to play in the World Cup, so what's the rush, you know? What's the rush?
And Van der Beek's not in the Dutch squad either. And
yeah.
we obviously haven't signed De Jong yet, so if that goes there, so...
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? Are we seeing for the kind of first time? I mean, any player like of Timber's quality and age coming to a club like Man United, even playing second fiddle and trying to work his way into the team would still be a big move, wouldn't it, for a kid of his age? Are we seeing for the first time then the United losing that grip, losing that kind of glamorous kind of edge in terms of attracting those players, and that it's not a step up for an Ajax player anymore? Stu, what do you reckon to that? I mean, I know you spoke briefly about Timber earlier on, but just kind of...
Yeah, look, I agree with the lads. I think it'd be a big risk for him to come to us this summer. He may fancy that challenge, though. He may think within himself, I can go, you know, I can make a difference with a manager that I know. But I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him because at 21 years of age, he's got a chance to play in the World Cup. He's going to want to take it. Once he does that, then, you know, when he's 22, he may make a decision about whether he wants to move abroad or go to another club. I think it's going to be very, very difficult to prize him away. But it's not impossible. You know, Ten Hag could work his magic and he comes. What he does offer, though, is versatility, and we do need versatility. We've got a lot of unversatile footballers in our current squad. So we do need versatility. Yes, I know he claims that he wants to be a centre-back, but he's a very good right-back as well. He's very progressive. I think one of the comments was talking about his leap rate. It's not as good as Varane's, for example. But then I aired, and I got absolutely lambasted for it at the start of the season when we bought Varane. And I said, look, you're not going to see the best of Varane this season. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about and all that kind of bollocks. As it turned out, I was right. We didn't see the best of Varane. Varane himself will say we haven't seen the best of him. It's very, very difficult to come to a new country and a new league, especially as fast-paced as the Premier League. Now, Varane was excellent for Real Madrid. But he had two stalwarts alongside him, Ramos and, of course, Pepe. They're both animals. And he struggled to adapt to not having a ball winner, a real dirty bastard alongside him. He struggled to adapt. And he has made a few mistakes this season, Varane, but he has struggled. And it could well be that Timber may find something very, very similar if he's put into the first 11 at Manchester United. Now, if we can get Anthony over the line, maybe Timber might look at it and say, I'm going to get an easier ride because I played with Anthony. I know what Anthony can do. So it may well be that Anthony's our catalyst rather than Timber. But I don't know. I think if I was him, from a footballing stance, from a footballing project, I don't think I would risk the move this summer. I would sit on it for 12 months and then see where we go from there. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see where that pans out. I don't think it'd be a difficult deal to do. This is my worry. Timber wouldn't be a difficult deal to do because Ajax would take the money. He would get probably double his salary that what he's on. So it wouldn't be a difficult deal. But actually, Mr. Tom's right. He did say to the Athletic, "I'm going to go away on holiday, etc., and sort it out then." But I think Ten Hag really He can't wait. I know people are saying, well, we've got time. You haven't got time. The squad gets back together on June the 29th. We've got our first match in July the 12th. You haven't got any time now. There's got zero time for you to integrate footballers. And if you look at our history, the later the signings that come in, the more difficult they've had integrating themselves into the first team squad and integrating themselves. If they're not Premier League standard, integrating themselves to Premier League football, you cannot do that. And it's going to get to a stage where a Manchester United manager will probably, or should, turn around and say, and I'll get lambasted for this as well, but I don't really care. Fuck it. If you're not getting me the players I need by June the 29th, I'll go with the squad I've got. Because you've got to start the cohesion and you've got to do it early doors. You know, there's a lot of us on here that play the game at a really good standard, a really high level of football, who understand how it is and understands what you need to do. And the average fan, oh, that's bollocks. You don't need them in for pre-season and all this kind of. You do. I promise you now, you do. You need them from day one. So when you gather the squad back, forget the stragglers that have been on international duty. Gather the squad back. These guys can come in and understand what it means to play for Manchester United. Get themselves familiarised with the fringe players, the youth players, the setup as a whole, and it helps you. It helps you as a man. It helps your family, and it helps you progress. And so for me, we must do something. We must do something this week. Otherwise, don't bother. Because it's not going to work. And you bear in mind one other thing, by the way, you've got a brand new manager for the club as well, who doesn't know our squad. He knows them through conversations, he knows them through video work, but he doesn't know what they're actually physically like in front of him. It's a really tough call now for the board. It's tough for Ten Hag. And he's got to turn the screw. He really has. Otherwise, we are going to be on the back foot. Because if I'm Frankie de Jong, and I'll just finish on this, by the way. If I'm Frankie de Jong, I want to know which club I'm turning up for pre-season. It's either going to be Manchester United or Barcelona. And if I turn up at Barcelona, that's where I'm staying. He's got no issues with his contract. I think his contract's up to 2026. Why uproot yourself, get yourself on a plane and fly off, halfway around the world when you should have been on that doorstep on June 29th, ready to start? That's what you've got to consider. It's not, there's more to it than just buying players now. I feel a bit for Ten Hag, actually. I really do feel for it. It's a real difficult one.
Yeah, but Stu, sorry to interject. I think I was I don't know if you was on the space with me, Reece, the other day, or Ben, and I said, I keep trying to emphasize to fans, the problem, the fans want signings, but the blame right now, whether we like it or not.
It's about integration. All about integration.
But unfortunately, our current manager, whether we like it or not, even myself, I would prefer us to start getting our hands out our asses. Ten Hag really wants De Jong. He could at any moment say, you know what, let's pivot and let's go for him. Let's go for someone else. But he really wants this player, clearly. He's made it. That's his priority. He wants this one done first. And maybe it's because speculation, Glazeronomics, he knows how they are already. If we go spend this much, we're only going to have this much left. So let's find how much we're going to need to spend on my priority signing before I start moving about. I'm just speculating, if that makes sense. But it just seems to me like De Jong is, like I said, the manager at any moment could be like, let's go and sign somewhere else. But he hasn't. He wants this player.
Let's hold that thought. We will come on to De Jong to finalise this hour, so that we'll all get a chat. Ben and John, Ben first, and then we'll come on to John. What's your views on the Timber one? Have you got some views on it, Ben?
I think it's perspective for all parties. Perspective for the lad, knowing, because he's going to have spoken to Erik Ten Hag, and he knows he's not going to be speaking to someone who he's never met before, who's going to promise him all under the sun on false premises. So he knows what Ten Hag's going to say, and he's going to come with a purpose of truth. But he's then going to look at it from, well, okay, I take on board what you're saying, but I've also got these worries in front of me. And the percentage of those worries might be, well, I'm not going to commit to anything that you've told me, even though I buy into what you're saying, until I see the other pawns that come through the door first. Because if, for argument's sake, we didn't sign who we all clearly know he's after in the middle of the park, and then he goes and gets Timber, Timber's going to think, well, I'm up the garden path like a paddle here, and I've got a World Cup to play for, and I've got a lot of pressure on me now to be the man at the back when the AG is and everything like that. So the Timber thing for me is he would be the last piece of the jigsaw that I would go for, because there are far more pressing issues that you need to address before you then revert to him. Because if you get all of your other pieces in order, that then eliminates all the pressure that you're going to put on a 21-year-old to perform within a club that's trying to get out of the trajectory that it's in currently, with a manager who doesn't know the league or the majority of the players that he's got, like Stu said. So that's where I'm at with it. I would rather get him last, knowing that you've got everything else. But again, like Stu said, before the pre-season.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what's the point? There's no point buying all the players that Eric Ten Hag wants, but you don't do it until the end of July.
Plus, I think like we're kind of leading on to this, aren't we, a little bit? But he's not necessarily a main target. He's just one of the targets. I don't think he's the main one, and he's not one that if we land, it's going to make a huge difference for us next season. We know where the main issues lie. John, do you sort of agree with that? Kind of what's your views on Timber and that position in general, I suppose?
Yeah, I remember saying this a while back that I thought Timber might join us, but I think it's obviously clearly that's unlike. I do think Ten Hag Van Gaal would have had a word with him and say that I won't go yet, that kind of thing. And maybe I do think I've always felt that we will sign a player from Ajax for Ten Hag. I think it comes down to priority, really. The two we've been in with it's Timber and Anthony. You've got to question which one would improve our team more at this moment. And I think you'd have to say Anthony at this moment for the right wing position. He'll give the team more balance on the right hand side and that kind of thing. And like people say, he's 21. I think he's still got the rest of his career ahead of him. And it wouldn't surprise me if maybe United could do a gentleman's agreement maybe in a year's time where maybe maybe we'll sign Anthony this summer, maybe Timber next summer potentially. That could be an option. So yeah, I think the odds on he's more likely to stay at Ajax this summer. And that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones. I think those transfer targets, John, is in it where it's it's a kind of pie in the sky type affair at the minute, and we just have to wait and see. I think as we're kind of leading on to now, he's not necessarily the main target. The main target being De Jong, which we'll touch on. I didn't kind of want to touch on this too much. I think we've all been talking about this in some way, shape, or form, either in a Spaces or on a YouTube channel. But I think it's the one taking up most of Man United fans' time in regards to De Jong, and I kind of want to kind of mirror that with the Eriksen deal. Is Eriksen a slight stopgap to potentially Frankie De Jong if we don't get Frankie De Jong, or do we see Eriksen coming in as well as Frankie De Jong if we do get Frankie De Jong? Mr. Tom, what's kind of your views on the Frankie De Jong thing? I know you were talking a little bit on Spaces last night regarding the voting for the leverage deal and all that kind of stuff, and whether now Barca getting this money is going to make give United a bit of thinking time in terms of whether we're actually going to get him or not. What's your views on it, mate?
Because I probably know the Barca situation a bit more, especially after covering it yesterday on the Spaces for like 4 or 5 hours. It's not changed the position. I've always said privately with my close group, it's going to cost between 65, 68. It's not changed nothing really. You pay that and you get him 65, probably 65. I reckon you could get him with add-ons. The voting thing, I don't know if people know that actually there's no deals that are done. That was just a vote so they can negotiate or finalize deals. There's actually no deals. All the speculation about the money, the figures are even still up for debate, and then La Liga's got to calculate the figures and then give them their salary cap and all that for next season.
I love the recent report. I've just seen. Sorry to interject, but I've just seen there's a report on the Sun. It says Frankie de Jong clears out Barcelona locker.
Yeah, no, that's nothing new. That's old news. That's old news.
That's confirmed then.
the deal's done then.
One thing I'm just gonna move quickly to. This is something I don't really like, because if it was in England, we would be going on it heavily. So this morning, early in the morning, a lot of the Spanish reporters were going in heavy on him. And when I say heavy, you had one Spanish reporter saying their next 11 for next season. You had another Spanish reporter, and they were all credible, especially one of them. They even atted him on Twitter. They atted him in their whole thing. That's very disrespectful, saying that Barcelona still looking to sell Frankie de Jong and atting the player. Like, but that's how the Spanish are. Like, they're really trying to force him out the door. That's what's happening right now. Point blank. They're just trying to force him out the door, whether he likes it or not, sort of situation. And that's what's sort of been reporting over in Holland, that he's getting forced out. So that situation, I think we're going to probably get some new news between now, I reckon, Monday, or latest next week. But I reckon from now till Monday, there's going to be some form of news, because there's reports about, Man United trying to come to a compromise, or a better compromise than what's going on currently. Let's see what happens, man. But I just feel like, my personal preference, I feel like we're wasting time on it. That's my opinion. But the manager clearly wants this player. Yeah. And it seems like, regardless how I feel about it, he wants this player. So that's why I tried to tell people, I don't know if, like I said, I know Ben's in my spaces. Look, it's not, I get the frustration, but the manager wants this player. Do you know what I mean? Like, what can we do? He clearly wants this player. They're trying to, obviously, if they had negotiated before the voting, then they probably could have got around 45, 50, maybe. But unfortunately, Barca stretched it out, and it doesn't really, like I said, the situation's not changed. Pay what they sort of want, and you get the player. It's that simple.
In all reality, though, Reece, if we pay what Mr. T said, that's still ridiculously cheap for the level of play that we're getting. When you factor in what certain players in England are getting quick. Now, I know it's the English players, and I know there's this ridiculous, stupid, flipping fantasy figure that they put on English players, but it's a fact. So even though it's ridiculous, it's still a fact of the matter that that's a figure that you're going to have to come to some compromise over. It's still a ridiculously cheap deal for a player of that quality for me. In terms of the Eriksen thing, I think you do that deal irrespective of whether you sign Frankie de Jong anyway. Because I've read reports saying, it's such a stupid deal to do because of his age and all this nonsense. I'm thinking, what a load of tosh. He is everything that Juan Mata is, but more athletic, in my opinion, from watching him last season for Brentford. And he's proven in the Premier League. So you already know that tick in the box is done, that he can survive a Premier League season, because he's done it for Brentford, who are going to have less of the ball most times than not. And he's still been incredibly effective when he's had the ball. So you do that deal regardless of the Frankie de Jong thing. That's secondary to me, because you've got an instant replacement for Juan Mata, but who's far more athletic and can actually add more often than Mata could, just purely because of his legs. And you look at the deal, you're signing two players for 65 million, in a sense. I know obviously he's got his wages, but the fee, there is no fee with Eriksen, so you're getting two players for 65, 68 million. Yeah.
Marcus, Stu, John, do you want to add to that, really? I mean, the thing that concerns me with the Frankie de Jong one, maybe I'm naive. Yeah, go on, Stu.
No, I agree with Ben with Eriksen. You do the deal irrespective anyway. It's a deal we should have done years ago before he went to Spurs. Our feet then, and we could be dragging our feet again. I don't think he'll go back to Spurs this time. He had a rocky start under Conte, didn't he, at Inter? I know
he never played him.
Inter, but he had a rocky start. Yeah, that's right. So I can't see him going, risking out. If he doesn't want Brentford, I think we're the perfect home for him. Reference Frankie de Jong. Look, I've said this a million times. He would never be top of my list. I think he's a fabulous footballer. But unless you get the the support act right around him, I can't see him flourishing. As good as a player he is, I can't see him flourishing. Now, I think the lads are right. I think he is clearly Erik ten Hag's first choice, and that's what he wants. I tend to agree with that. But Barcelona can't force him out with 3 years left on his contract, or 4 years, whatever it is. It's 3 or 4 years, isn't it? Because they're going to have to pay him. They have to pay him off. Having kind of settlement to do that. And then it depends whether or not they then want Manchester United to pay that, which by inflating the transfer fee kind of negates that, kind of, gives De Jong a bit of a fillip in terms of finance. So it's a real difficult one for them. But I go back to what I was saying last time. If I was Frankie de Jong, I would want to know, by the time I turn up to pre-season training, which door am I going through? Am I going through Barcelona, or am I going through Manchester United's door? That's up to the clubs to sort out. But Frankie de Jong and his agent should be of the deal, irrespective of how much the money is, blah, 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 blah. He should be pushing, his agent should be pushing. Am I going back to Barca, or am I going to Manchester United? Because I don't want to go to Barcelona for 3 weeks and then pack up and then get shipped off to England. There's just no comments, no rhyme, no reason. 10 Hag, so I think that's the key. Whatever. He's away on holiday now, isn't he? I think he was interviewed, or somebody said something with regards to it. But if I was him, I would like to know where I'm going, even if he joins a week late. The squad at Manchester United or Barcelona. Which door am I going through? Red or blue and mauve? And that would be my only thoughts.
Stu, how soon would you, or how longer would you give this? Like, how longer would you give this, or how soon would you want it wrapped up?
Yeah, I would want it wrapped up by Monday. I think if Barcelona have indicated to us there's a willingness to sell, which by all accounts there has been, but as you quite rightly said, Mr. Tom, we want 70 million euros. We're not budging, so don't come back to us at the end of July, because it ain't move. So here's your chances. So if we want him enough, and Erik ten Hag wants him enough, pay the money. However, you made a really interesting point about how much of a chunk of our transfer budget is that going to eat up, and can we buy, like you say, can we then spend the money on Anthony? We've got to go bargain bin after the De Jong sale. So this comes back to the Wan-Bissaka sales, the Henderson sales. I get all of that. I understand that it's feeding the dragon in terms of output for money. But you can't drag this out. If rumours are right and we started talking to Barcelona 4 weeks ago, what are we doing? I don't know whether you believe the Nunes rumours, but if that was all wrapped up in a week, I know transfers can be difficult, but they can be as easy or as difficult as the clubs want to make it. But we don't know whether De Jong's decided to come to us. If he hasn't decided to come to us, that's, I think, the difficult part. But I don't think we can give it any longer than 2 weeks, Mr. Tom.
Yeah, I agree with Stu on that point. I think also I'd actually go a little bit further if I was De Jong. Obviously, he's made his statements. He wants to stay at Barcelona and all that. But I'd actually, if I was him, I'd put pressure on the club, because it's clear from the Spanish reports Barcelona wanted to sell him and all, and, to raise money, for wages and all that. I go step further and say to him, look, you want to sell me? Fine. I'm giving you 2 weeks to do it. And if you don't agree a deal with United after those 2 weeks, I'll be a Barcelona player and you can't force me on. So that's what I would do if I was him. Even though he wants to stay, he's got to stamp his foot down and say, well, if you want to get rid of me, I'm leaving on my own terms. So I personally think that's what he's almost got to push it himself. If there's this brinkmanship going on in regards to it, you got 2 weeks to agree a fee, otherwise I'm staying. I think that's something that will give clarity to United, I think.
The thing for me, Reece, is you can easily do this deal by Monday, because if it's just the fee we're trying to sort out with Barca, then that means everything else has been taken care of. Wages, salary, contract length. He's going to pass his medical because he played with Holland and didn't miss a beat. So he's not injured. So everything else is done. other than the announcement on Man U TV and all that glamour that they do with that, and the medical, you could easily nail this by Monday. There's nothing else other than a fee.
I was joking earlier on, but I'm starting to believe my own joke here that obviously a lot of other teams have made signings and they've shown the players in the new strip for next season. United haven't announced their new top for next season.
When is the shirt out? Where have they said date yet?
No, basically what's happened, I don't know if anyone knows, we got a new sponsor, if I'm correct, it's on the arm. But that actually, that contract doesn't kick into the 1st of July. So officially, they can't even announce the kit because of with that contract to the 1st of July. Yeah. And I have in my private group spoke about this, how, you know how Man United are with signings and promotion and kits, and it does make sense that they're waiting a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would really... maybe there's something already done, there's deals wrapped up that we don't know about, and the reason they're keeping it stum is because of the fact that... I was kind of joking earlier on, but then when I think about it more and more, it's...
no, there's probably some truth. There is, I'll be honest with you.
The numbers thing as well, Reece, in terms of the shirt numbers, that United have said they're not doing anything until pre-season.
Right.
In terms of announcing who's wearing what shirt, so... And they don't do that unless... They've got a number specific for somebody.
Well, the official numbers, when they officially hand their numbers to the Premier League, that's usually like the Thursday, the Friday before the season starts.
Yeah, it's the end of August.
There's a few big numbers open up in there, number 8 and number 6 and all that kind of stuff. So, I just want to come... sorry, John, I just want to come to... Yeah, I just want to come to Marcus on the Jong one and the Henderson one. It's been sat there patiently. What's your views on it, Marcus? Because I'm mindful that we're almost an hour and 15 into this as well, so it's been a quick hour and 15. But we'll kind of wrap up on your thoughts on this De Jong one, mate, and then we'll.
I'll try keep it as brief as possible. But I think the thing with De Jong is it's twofold. Number one, I think Reece is lagging there. But obviously, there's been a huge debate about whether or not Manchester United should be going for players who, quote unquote, don't want to be here. First of all, a lot of people have complained about, and I hate to bring Paul Pogba into this, but it will make sense. Just let me extend this olive branch. A lot of people have complained about a player who always talks about wanting to leave and wanting to play for other clubs. And now we finally have a player here who's being respectful and saying, hey, I'm not gonna entertain any of these rumors. I'm happy to be at Barcelona. He's being professional. He's just being professional. There's been plenty of players in the past who've said, I love playing for this club. It's the biggest club in the world, blah, blah, blah. And then a week later, they've left to another club. I mean, the best example I can think of to mind is Luis Figo. I don't know why he comes to mind, but he literally went to the rival, after saying, I love my club, this, that, and the other. So I wouldn't read too much into that. That's the first point. The second point is, again, I'm in the camp that I feel like we are wasting time on De Jong. Now, I completely understand that it's Erik ten Hag's priority signing. So I'm praying, and I'm not even very religious, but I am praying that it works out for his sake and for our sake as fans. But I genuinely have PTSD because I feel like this is Pogba all over again. We're going to spend, it's not quite the same amount of money, but we're going to spend money on this guy who's supposedly one of the best midfielders in the world. We're going to bring him in, and then we're not going to put in a support structure around him. Even if we sign Eriksen doesn't really do anything for De Jong because Eriksen is more of a 10 anyways. So yes, De Jong is great to taking the ball off the back four, but being a CDM and being a central midfielder is about more than just what you do on the ball. It's also what you do off the ball. So we still don't have somebody who's a ball winner. We still don't have somebody who's willing to fill in for the defense when there's holes, right? Because that's what a good CDM does from time to time. We still don't have somebody who is a destroyer, somebody who's physical in the midfield. And so De Jong is going to be forced into that role. And I fear, again, we're going to see another player who is known for a lot of his offensive qualities is going to be suppressed to play in a position he doesn't want to, in a team that doesn't complement him and doesn't suit him. And we're going to be sat here 3 years later going, what went wrong with De Jong then? Is it his fault or is it the club's fault? Who failed who? And it's,
Marcus,
it feels like history repeating itself.
Marcus, I just want to say something here. Don't you think, though, and I'm just basing this off to the links and the players, the sort of profile we're linked to, right? That it would seem to me Ten Hag doesn't want the sort of destroyer or defensive midfielder me and you want. He wants a more Nevers or, the more sort of a more fluent midfield. That's what it comes across to me. I might be wrong, but he doesn't want the sort of midfielder that me and you want, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a point. That's something I haven't even considered, to be honest. Maybe that is a point. But if that's the case, again, I'm praying it works out, because from where I'm standing, and look, I don't know more about football than Erik ten Hag. I'm not going to be that arrogant, but we're all allowed to have our own opinions, right? Like, from where I'm standing, I think that's a terrible idea in the Premier League to try play without a proper true CDM, or at least a double pivot where one player takes most of the defensive responsibilities and you can rely on them to offer that protection for the back four. It's a terrible idea, especially when you still haven't sorted out your back four. We still don't know what our strongest centre-back pairing along with the full-back pairing is, right? We haven't figured that out, even though we might all have our personal opinions. There's no evidence, there's no sample space of games to say this is 100% without a doubt, based on fact, based on this amount of games, this is our best centre-back partnership and this is our best back four. We still haven't even figured that out yet. So to go into a season without a CDM, it just doesn't sit right with me. But again, if that's what Ten Hag wants, I'm just going to back it. I'm just going to back it and see what happens. And hopefully he knows better than all of us, and he's right. I hope that's the case.
Well, he's Man United manager.
Yeah, so
it's insanely scary and exciting at the same time.
yeah.
Definitely got a lot. Definitely got.
No, I get your point. Yeah. No, agreed.
Yeah, it's definitely got a lot to do, hasn't he? I think we're all agreed on that. And
yeah,
I mean, maybe I'll put another manager to put faith in McTominay. We don't know, but let's not try and get a little too depressed about that. Yeah, guys, it's been brilliant. It's been an hour and 20 minutes of talking about all the rumours. I'm sure all of them will come true. Fingers crossed. And we'll see. And we'll be talking about this again in a few days' time, I'm sure. We've got a couple more shows coming up. I'm sure I think there's a last word on Sunday. And then we're back in on Monday. And then there's again Wednesday and Friday. I'm back in on hosting on Friday. I'll probably, like the other guys on the panel here, be jumping on some of those shows as well as a speaker, so that'll be good. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. It is growing. You are helping us out. The chat's getting better and better and better every time we come onto these. So really, really appreciate some of the loyalty we're seeing on these chats now. It's absolutely fantastic. And the spaces are getting better as well. So join us on the spaces if you can during the week, because they're getting really, really good as well. So thanks to everybody that's been on the chat. Thanks to the panel, John, Ben, Mr. Tom, Marcus, and Stu. Catch you in the next one, guys. See you soon.
Cheers, guys.